Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at Grammar Exercise 1 from Chapter 17 of the Rhodes Latin textbook. Now, like I've been doing in these grammar exercise explanations, I'm going to walk you through the problems, explain how we got the answers, and kind of help you with some tips to figure this out on your own. But if you want more information, you can always take a look at my website. It has all the grammar notes you might need, a couple of videos, things like that, just to walk you through and make sure that you really feel strong in the grammar. Now, before we dive in, like I always tell you on these videos, you want to make sure that before you get to the grammar exercises, you've done some work beforehand. So you should have all the vocab under control, feeling really confident in the words. That way you know what's going on. And you also should have read through the explanation and the notes from the actual textbook. So again, if you're just using the normal Road to Latin textbook, the authors have put some really good descriptions and discussion there that'll get you in the right place. If you need some more and want to take a look at my website, I've got some videos and more sort of expanded notes that might help you out. But what you're really trying to get in this chapter is how to conjugate verbs in the present tense in the third and fourth conjugation. So it'll kind of come back to chapter 11 when we first learned about verb conjugation. It was first and second conjugation verbs. Now we're finishing that off. So any verb we can throw at you in the present tense, you should be able to handle it well. So make sure you've done all that prep work. And then the last thing I'd say is make sure you try this exercise on your own, right? Don't let this video be the first time you're seeing it. You want to take a look at the grammar exercise, work through it on your own, try to answer it as best you can, and then use this video just as a double check. Okay, so if you haven't done any of that, pause the video, go work on it. Otherwise, let's work through the problems now, and we'll see what we can come up with, okay? So there's a couple of different pieces here. It's one of the longer exercises, because instead of giving you sentences, you're doing like, a bunch of verbs and conjugating. So it might take a little bit, but I'll walk you through it and make sure that you're on the right track. So the first part you have for grammar exercise 1 is it says write the following, not write the following. It says give the first two principal parts and the stem vowel of the Latin verbs with the following meanings, and then you get a bunch of different verbs. Okay, so the first verb is shout. Right, that's what we're looking at here. Now, to shout in Latin is clamo, clamare, right? Those are the first two principal parts. The A is the stem vowel, which means it's first conjugation. That's all you really want to know, right? Just writing the parts and getting the stem vowel. For the second verb, we have teach, right? To teach is doceo, docere. The long E in the infinitive, the second part, makes it a second conjugation verb. So long E is your stem vowel. Then we have to do, which is ago, agere. Now you notice here that you have an ERE without a long mark in the infinitive. That makes it third conjugation. So that stem vowel is going to be an E, right? That's what you're looking at if you go to the infinitive and drop the RE. But remember, you're going to flip that to an I or a U as you go through conjugating the present tense. So I wrote EIU here just so you can remember that. You're going to do some vowel flips because it's the third conjugation verb, right? Which we learned in this chapter. Now, to come is venio, venire. Now, the IRE in venire makes it fourth conjugation. So the stem vowel is technically an I, right? But remember, in fourth conjugation, when you get to the third person plural, just say they come, it's going to be IU. So that's why I wrote long I / IU here, okay? Then you have the verb to ask. Now, to ask is rogo, rogare. Now, the ARE, right, makes it first conjugation. The stem vowel is an A. The next verb is to send. You have mito, mitere. Now, the ERE in mitere is short. There's no long mark over it, so it's third conjugation. So remember that stem vowel will be an E, and we're going to flip it to an I and a U as you actually conjugate the verb. Now, the next one we have is to reply. Now, to reply in Latin is responde o respondere. Now, the ERE in respondere is long. It makes it second conjugation, okay? Now, the next one we have here is play, to play. It's ludo, ludere. Now, ludere, the infinitive, has a short ERE, so it's a third conjugation verb. So again, the stem vowel is the E, and we're going to end up switching it to an I and a U. Now, the last part we have here, or the last verb we have here, rather, is to hear. It's audio, audire. Now, the IRE on audire makes it fourth conjugation. So remember, your stem vowel is an I, and you're going to make it an IU when you say they hear. Okay, so it's very repetitive on the first part of this grammar exercise, but I think it's important to go through all of them. It gets very repetitive, I'll admit that, but if you can do this and get all of them, you're going to be fine, right? There's nothing we can throw at you that's going to confuse you. So work your way through, and like I said, hopefully what you just did, on your own matches what I just went through here. Okay. Now, when you get to number 2, the second part of this grammar exercise, it says give the rule for forming the present stem of each conjugation. It's very straightforward. The rule when you're doing present tense verb conjugation is you go to the infinitive, which is the second principal part, and you drop the RE. right? That stem, the present stem, is just the infinitive without the re. For third and fourth conjugations, you're going to deal with vowel flips, right? That stem vowel is going to change. So you have e going to I to u, or I to iu. But the general idea, any verb you run into, any regular verb, I should say, when you're dealing with present tense, you go to the infinitive and you drop the re. That's sort of the basics of it. Okay? Now for question 3, or number 3, it says conjugate the present tense of each verb mentioned in part 1 above. So we're going back to the verbs we just saw. The first verb we had was to shout, which is clamo, clamare. So again, you go to the infinitive, you drop the re. Our present stem is clama, right? C-L-A-M-A. So every one of these is going to start with it. The only one that won't is clamo, the first principal part. Sometimes it's spelled a little bit differently. That's why we give it to you. But clamo means to I shout, rather. The rest of them, it's clama, and you add your endings, st, mus to son. So you're going to have clamo, clamas, clamat, clamamus, clamatus, clamant. And you're just saying I shout, you shout, and down the line. The next verb is to teach, right? Doceo, docere. It's a second conjugation verb. Go to the infinitive, drop the re. You're going to have doceo, right? I teach. Doces, docet, docemus, docetus, docent, right? So whoever is teaching I, you, he, she, it, we, you, all, and they. Now, the next verb was to do, ago, agere. Third conjugation verbs. This is what this chapter is all about. You go to the infinitive, you drop the re, right? The first answer is always the first principal part. So ago means I do. For the rest of them, when we drop the re off the infinitive, you're going to have age, right, is your stem. The stem vowel is an e, technically. You're going to flip it to an I. So it's going to be agis, agit, agamus, agitus. And then when you get to third person plural, the I becomes a u, agunt. They lead, or they do, rather. So the vowel, the e, is going to get changed. So whenever you're dealing with third conjugation, you think of e flipping to an I and then to a u. Okay? Now the next verb is venire, which means to come, right? Venio, venire. So venio is I come. That's the first person singular. For the rest of them, go to the infinitive, drop the re, and add your endings. Except when you get to that third person plural, you're going to have an iu. So in other words, you have to add a u to that stem vowel of I. So it's not venint, it's veniunt. Okay, so you have venio, venis, venit, venimus, venitus, veniunt. Okay, so it's just I, you, he, she, it, we, you, all, and they. Okay? Now, the next verb is rogo, rogare, which means to ask. Same thing, first conjugation, go to the infinitive, drop the re, add your endings. Pretty straightforward. The next verb here is mito, mitere, which means to send. Again, this is a third conjugation verb. So you go to the infinitive, you drop the re, and you have to flip the e to an I and then to a u. That's why you have mitunt at the end. But the rest of it is following the same pattern. Now, the next verb we have is respondere, which is a second conjugation verb, means to reply. So there's nothing really crazy here. Go to the infinitive, drop the re, add your endings, right? And you have I respond or reply, you, he, she, it, we, you, all, and they. Down the line, again, second conjugation is nothing particularly crazy. Now, the next verb is a third conjugation verb. You have ludo, ludere. Now, ludere, again, the short ere makes it third, so you have to do the vowel flip. Go to the infinitive, drop the re, flip the e to an I, and then to a u. Remember, the first person singular is always the first principal part. Just ludo means I play. For the rest of them, it's going to be ludi, followed by the ending, until you get to the end where it becomes a u, right, with ludunt. Now, next we have to hear, audio, audire, right? This is our last verb, if I remember right. So you're going to have audire, drop the re, right? First part is audio, that means I hear. For the rest of them, you're going to take audire, drop the re, you have audi, A-U-D-I. That's going to be the stem all the way through until you get to the third person plural when you have to add the u, right? So we don't say audint, it's audiunt. You have to add that u there. So again, number 3 is really repetitive. There's a lot of verbs. It's just over and over and over again, but I don't mind it only because if you can do it and really practice it well, there's nothing that you're going to see that's going to be confusing. It's really good practice for you. Okay? So now you move on to number 4, right, of this grammar exercise. And it says, give the Latin for the following English phrases. So you're going English to Latin, which is always a really good thing to do. It'll help you kind of work backwards and kind of process everything that you have going on. So the verb here we want is they show, which is demonstrant, right? It's demonstrare. You drop the re, you add your ending. The nt means they. Okay. For they do, it's ago, agere. It becomes agunt. Again, third conjugation verb, unt is what we need for that third person plural, they, right? The next verb is they see, video, videre. It's just a second conjugation verb, so there's nothing crazy here, right? Take videre, drop the re, add an nt, and you get vident, right? They see. The next one is they play, ludo ludere, third conjugation verb. So that's why you're going to have that flip happening there, right? So ludunt is going to be your answer, right? They play, because you have to just change the stem vowel around, okay? The next one they have is they come, veniunt. It's a fourth conjugation verb, venio, venire. So you drop the re, you have to add an iu when you get to they, right? The third person plural is iu. Next, you have I call. So now we're switching around from they to I. So I call is woco, right? Nothing crazy there. For I hear, it's audio. We're just taking the first principal part of the verb. Next, you have I do, which is ago. Then you have I teach, which is dokeo, right? Dokeo is just the first principal part of the verb. And now we're flipping to you, right? So we're kind of out of the I's, we're going to the you. So you singular. You are standing, stas, right? It's a first conjugation verb. Drop the re, add an s, and you're in a good spot. To say you have would be habes, right? It's a second conjugation verb, so that e stays. We don't have to flip anything around. Next, you have you are coming. It's venire. You drop the re and add the s. We don't have to do anything. It's fourth conjugation, so you only flip the vowel around when it's third person plural. So here we're just adding an s. Next, you have you play, right? Ludus. This is ludo ludere. It's a third conjugation verb. Flip the e to an I and add your ending. That's why you have ludis with an is. Now we're getting into the we's. So we have we prepare. It's parare, right? Drop the re, add an mus, you get paramos, and you're good to go. Nothing crazy there. Next, we have we send. This is a third conjugation verb. So mito mitere, right? You have to drop the re off mitere, flip it to an I. So e goes to I. That's why it's mittimus here. Next, you have we are studying or we studying. It's studio studere. It's a second conjugation verb. So just drop the re off your infinitive, add an mus, and you're good to go. Next, you have we hear, right? Or we are hearing. Fourth conjugation verb, drop the re, add an mus. We don't have to flip anything around because in fourth conjugation, that only happens with the third person plural, okay? Now we're getting into he, right? He, she, it. So how do you say he gives? Dat. Just take the infinitive, drop the re, add a t. Next, you have he sits. It's sedere, second conjugation verb, sede, right? Is how you say he sits. Next, you have he is coming. It's venio venire, fourth conjugation verb. So the I is going to stay there. Venit, right? It just means he, she, or it is coming. Next, you have he is sending. This is a third conjugation verb. So when you drop the re, you have to flip the e to an I. That's why it's mittit, meet it, right? He, she, or it sends. Next, you have he does. This is the same thing. It's a third conjugation verb, ago agere. So it's going to be it age, right? He, she, or it does. Okay? Next, you have you all, right? So the y'all section. You all are watching. Spectatus. Just add a tis. You all here is auditus. There's nothing crazy there, right? We didn't have to flip anything. You all are sending is metitus. Right here, we did have to flip the e to an I because it's a third conjugation verb. Next, you have you all see, videtus. You don't have to flip anything. It's a second conjugation verb. Okay? So there's a lot there. Again, a lot of repetition in number 4. Just a lot of things happening over and over again. But hopefully it feels pretty good and you feel like you're on the right track. Now, in the actual textbook, number 5 is saying give the present tense for each verb in the story. I skipped that because I just think it would make too long of a video, and you'll probably be able to figure that out on your own. So what I'm calling number 5 here is actually number 6 in the textbook. I just didn't want you to get confused or think I skipped anything. I promise you I didn't. But this is give in Latin the first 2 principal parts of the following verbs and state to which conjugation each belongs. So we have the verb to give here, and again, we're writing it out. It's very similar to what we did in exercise 1, but we're just repeating again what are the principal parts and the conjugation. To give is dodare, are, first conjugation. To hear is audio audire, ire makes it a fourth conjugation verb. To see is video videre, long ere makes it a second conjugation verb. To leave is relinquo relinquere, the short ere makes it a third conjugation verb. To fear is timeo timere, the long ere makes it a second conjugation verb. To call is voco vocare, the are makes it a first conjugation verb. To drag is traho trare, right? The short ere makes it a third conjugation verb. To fortify is munio munire, which is a fourth conjugation verb because of the ire. Okay. Next, we have to burn, which is incendo incendere. It's a third conjugation verb because of the short ere. Next, you have to hinder or sort of prevent, impedio impedire. The long ire makes it a fourth conjugation verb. Next, you have to conquer, right? To overcome or conquer, which is supero, superare. The ARE makes it a first conjugation verb. To do, we've seen a lot in this video, is ago, agere. It's a short ERE in the infinitive, so it's a third conjugation verb. To hold is habeo, habere, which is a second conjugation verb because of the long ERE. To open is aperio, aperire. The long IRE makes it a fourth conjugation verb. To assault or besiege is appugno, appugnare. The ARE makes it a first conjugation verb. To collect is kogo, kogore. The short ERE makes it a third conjugation verb. To lead is duko, dukore. The short ERE again makes it a third conjugation verb. Then you have to come, venio, venire, which is a fourth conjugation verb, right, because of the IRE. Then we have to send, which is mito, mitere. Again, short ERE makes it third conjugation. To prepare is paro, parare. The ARE in the infinitive makes it a first conjugation verb. To play is ludo, ludere, which is a third conjugation verb, short ERE in the infinitive. Then you have to climb, which is ascendo, ascendere. Again, short ERE makes it a third conjugation verb. And last but not least, we're finally to the end. You have to hasten, which is propero, properare. Now the ARE makes it a first conjugation verb. All right, so there's a lot going on there, a lot in this grammar exercise. There's a lot of verbs, there's a lot of repetition. It can get a little boring. It might be a little overwhelming to do this over and over again. It can feel redundant, but the way I use it in my class and what I encourage you to do is do as many as kind of makes sense. You don't necessarily have to do all of them, but it's really good practice. You want to leave this chapter being able to very quickly identify what conjugation a verb belongs to, first, second, third, or fourth, and how to conjugate it in present tense, right? How to say, I do this, you do this, he, she, it, we, you, all, they. That should become second nature by the time you move on from chapter 17. So if you're struggling to do any of the things that this grammar exercise lays out, that's a really big red flag that you need to pause. You need to go back. Maybe you have to reread the notes or do some more practice, whatever it might be. But even though there's a lot going on here, it's all really important, and you want to make sure that you've got it under your belt and under control before you move on, okay? If you have any questions at all on anything I did, anything you saw, just put it in the comments below. I'm always happy to help you out. But otherwise, keep at it, keep practicing, and it should click in. Whenever it does click in and you know that you've got it, that's your sign to move on. Good luck.